What do you get when you pit a 5'7" kid from the Bronx against a series of fighters that are bigger, stronger, and taller than him? Well, other than Smash Bros, you get this game. Much like a protagonist, this will be a little video looking at Easter eggs and punch-outs on the Wii. Starting off from the main menu, there is a neat little Easter egg sitting right in front of us. While using motion controls, which we all know is the best way to play this game, you can actually use the pointer to mess with Little Mac. If you point your cursor near his right foot, he'll try to stomp on it, and over on his left foot, he will instead jump. You can point higher on the left and he'll punch at the cursor, and pointing at him from the right side will make him try to swat it away. You can also spin the cursor in circles around his head and he will actually become dizzy. When choosing a fighter to face off against, they will also track your cursor, but that's it. There's no other animations, and you can't even make them dizzy, at least not through this method. As you likely know, during each fight, each fighter has various ways of making them stunned or dizzy. Oftentimes this is done by dodging an attack and then immediately countering with a punch of your own. If you do this against good old Glass Joe, you get some generic birds flying around his head, which explode into feathers once he regains control of himself. What's neat here is that some of the fighters have unique dizzy animations. First off, Von Kaiser, Disco Kid, Great Tiger, Aaron Ryan, Bald Bull, and Super Macho Man all repeat the same animation shown in the Glass Joe fight. King Hippo is the first fighter you will encounter in the game to actually have a unique animation, being pineapples that break into pineapple slices. Piston Honda has sushi that breaks into various pieces of sushi, and Bear Hugger has salmon that swim around his head, which burst into a shower of fish bones. It's neat because all three of those pull their inspiration from the corresponding fighter's cultural background. A little bit different though, Don Flamenco has roses, which are red during his contender fight and black during the title defense fight, representing his darkening heart, or something like that. Soda Popinski, instead of having objects that float around his head, has instead bubbles that just sort of float around. Lastly, Sandman's dizzy animation is just a bunch of Z's floating around his head, which obviously tie into his namesake. Anyways, changing things up a bit, have you ever paid close attention to the fighter records that show up before each match? Well, when you do, you might notice some fun little details, like, for example, how Glass Joe has 99 losses and only a single win. If you were to intentionally lose to Glass Joe to make him feel better, his record would actually reflect that, meaning that if you were crazy enough, you can grind losses against Glass Joe to inflate his score so that he would have a positive KD, which is both fun and also, I think, technically match fixing. But the real takeaway here is that every fighter's record reflects your actual wins and losses. Of course, your wins and losses are also reflected in your own record. If you manage to rack up a total of 100 losses throughout your career, you can actually unlock the headgear option in career mode, which will, when enabled, allow Little Mac to take reduced damage, making fights way easier. This also explains why Glass Joe reappears in his title defense match with headgear, because we gave him his 100th loss. Now, if you don't want to have a bunch of losses, the next couple of details are both helpful and technically Easter eggs because I said so. The game doesn't really tell you this, but whenever you down an enemy and the referee is frantically counting at them, you can shake the Wiimote and Nunchuck to regain energy over time, which is represented by Little Mac sort of keeping himself hyped up and ready to go. Also, between rounds, you will either get some sort of snarky comments or maybe a little pep talk from Doc Lewis. During this, if you press the minus button on the Wiimote, you will actually get a little chime, and Doc Lewis will eat a chocolate bar right next to your ear, which I guess is helpful because it actually restores a bit of your health. Unfortunately, he only carries one chocolate bar at all times because you can only use this health regeneration trick once per match. Now, even with those ways of regenerating your health, you might find yourself quite literally up against the ropes fighting for your life. Other than just getting good, I would suggest mashing the 1 and 2 buttons on your Wiimotes the moment you go down for a total knockout. I've seen other people saying that shaking the Wiimote and Nunchuck or even pressing the minus button does the same thing, but either way, doing this makes it so that there is a very small chance that Little Mac will actually resist getting knocked out with a stomp and a roar. It's quite truly a last-ditch effort, but when it works, it's such an anime moment. By the way, earlier when I said Sandman was the final fighter, I was actually doing something called lying, because there's actually a secret fighter, which can be seen in the crowd spectating all of the World Circuit title defense matches. It's a neat attention to detail, great foreshadowing, and oddly sinister. I'm not sure it's even legal to have an 800-pound gorilla fighting a small 17-year-old, but then again, Little Mac faces off against grown adults 6 or 7 weight classes above him, as well as a dude who literally uses magic, so who cares? Either way, Donkey Kong is a fun inclusion, and with this, they made sure to include some equally fun details around him. Like for example, during the fight against Donkey Kong, his dizzy animation consists of bunches of bananas which explode into banana peels. And when Donkey Kong inevitably wins, he'll celebrate by picking up Little Mac and straight up kidnapping him. While this is of course a nod to his Princess Peach stealing days of old, I like to think that this is the scene that led to Little Mac's inclusion in Smash Bros. Also, during one of the intermissions that can appear in between rounds against Donkey Kong, Doc Lewis will have this to say, referencing good old Mario.
Listen up, son. If you're having trouble, maybe I should call my plumber.
Finally, the last little Easter egg is also technically a little mini-game, which can be found in the credits. If you keep a very close eye on the text as it scrolls by, you can find spelling mistakes, letters, or I think even words flipped around, and also names of fighters that they must have snuck in there as some sort of childish prank. I like to think that this fun minigame doubles as an unofficial medical checkup for possible brain damage Little Mac sustained on his way to victory. That said, I think we'll wrap things up here. Thank you so much for watching, thanks to my channel members for their support, and especially big thanks to Christy Cundress, Pseudonymous Jermanger, and Achilles Rhodes for being super fans. If you watched this far, consider leaving a like, perhaps subscribing, and for some more Wii-based Easter eggs, why not check out last week's video looking at Wii Sports Resort. That's it for this one. I'll see you in the next video.